It's John here, and welcome to episode 10 of Java Programming. In this lesson, I'm not going to be going over much of code, but explaining types of keywords that you may have seen me use quite a bit, such as public, static, void. There are quite a few of these keywords that you can use in junction with methods, classes, and variable names. The most common you'll see is public, then for example an integer, and let's call it my variable. Now what this is saying is that this variable is visible to any other classes. It's available to any other classes, any other package, and any other project that you may have. But they would have to instantiate a object of the class hello YouTube for it to work. Now if you don't want them to instantiate a object of hello YouTube, what you can do is type in public static int my variable 2. Now the public means that it's still available to any package, any class, or any other project, but the static means that my variable 2 is going to be the same value no matter where you access it from, and there's only one instance of this due to it being static. Okay, there's also one more that comes into play with public and static, and that is protected static int my variable 3. Now you don't actually need this static with the public, or you don't need static with protected. You can use these on their own. So you could, for example, get rid of this static, and this would be available to this class, an object of this hello YouTube class, and hello YouTube is in the default package, so you'd only be able to access this variable to classes inside of this default package that have made an object of hello YouTube. If you made another package called default package dot something, those classes will also be able to access this variable if they have an object of this class. What cannot access this variable is anything that is not a subclass of default package. For example, this classes package is not a subclass of the default package. So action game, game, main, and RPG game cannot access my variable 3. Okay, so that's the access control modifiers. Then you have non-access modifiers. The non-access modifiers are, as we saw just a second ago, static. So if something is not static, it means that you have to instantiate the, for example, if it's a variable, you have to instantiate the variable inside the object that it's stored in. So for example, if we made a constructor for hello YouTube, public hello YouTube, and then for the public hello YouTube we're going to have a public static int test variable is equal to 100. Then we're going to have a public void, no, sorry, public int class variable is equal to 50. Now let's print out our test variable. System.out.println test variable. Now if we run this, it's going to print out 100 because the value of test variable is 100. Okay, so if we change this to class variable, if I can spell it right, class variable, and then we press debug. Error exists in required project, proceed with launch. Well, let's click proceed. We can click no to that and just press play. So exception in thread main, unresolved compilation problem, cannot make a static reference to a non-static field. So you'll notice that the main method to start your program starts off as static. So a static method cannot access a non-static class or variable. So this variable here, class variable, is not static. If we changed it to static, the error will go away, and then when we run it, it'll say 50. So how do we get this variable here? Well, what we need to do is say a new object of hello YouTube, and we call this hello YouTube is equal to new hello YouTube, nothing in the parentheses. So we have our object. Then what we can do is say hello YouTube and then dot, so we access whatever's in the hello YouTube object, and then we can say class variable. Then we can print out this, and when we print this out now, it's going to print out the value for 50. So that's the difference between static and something that is not static. You also have a final modifier. When something is final, it has its value and that's it. You cannot change it, you can only read from it. It's as if you're in a library and you're reading from a book. You can't change the contents of that book. If you did try to change the contents of the book, the library would fine you, so you wouldn't do it. So if we change this public static int to public static final and get rid of this hello YouTube constructor because we don't need it anymore, then we can just say system.out.println test variable. So the value will be 100 there, and then we can say test variable is equal to 5000. Now this is going to give us an error because it's final. The final field hello YouTube dot test variable cannot be assigned, and then it's saying remove final modifier. So if we did want to change this variable, we'd have to remove the final. Now this is useful, for example, if you want to state something and use it multiple times and you never want the value to change. For example, I might have a public static void string version is equal to version 1.0. That should be final, not void. Now let's say you wanted to put the version in the title up here. For this it says Eclipse. If you wanted to change it to version, you could. So if you wanted to print this out in anywhere in your program, you would call this version variable because it's available to everything because it's public. It's static, so you can reference it with anything without making an object of hello YouTube, and it's final, so nobody can change it. There are ways to change it if you use reflection, but that's a lot more complicated, and you should only mess with things like that if you know what you're doing. But by default you cannot change it. There's also an abstract modifier. The abstract modifier is basically used for making abstract classes. So you may want to make a class of dog. So if we make a class of dog, and I'm going to close everything else except dog, then we're going to call this public abstract class dog. Okay, so then we're going to have a method get dog. Actually, we're going to make this public string, public abstract string get dog breed. Now you'll notice that here, after we've said about this abstract, that we give our method name get dog breed and then the parentheses, but then we have this semicolon at the end instead of our curly braces. Now if you do try to put curly braces in, it's going to say that abstract methods do not specify a body. This is called a body inside the curly braces. So what this does is it specifies a method for use in classes that extend dog. So if I make a new class, Chihuahua, and then we're going to say this extends dog, and then we're going to have an error because we need to add unimplemented methods. Now it's going to override get dog breed. We said that in the dog that it's going to return a string, and we said that it's not going to receive any variables. So here we can just say return Chihuahua. But then we could also have another class of type husky, and we would override this get dog breed and then return husky. So then if we made a object of Chihuahua and then called get dog breed, we would get Chihuahua printed out. If we made a object of husky and called get dog breed, we would get husky back as a string. There are also two more non-access modifiers, and these are synchronized and volatile. Now synchronized means that only one thread can access that variable at one time. So most computers these days have more than one core and more than one thread. So if you have a program that is running multiple threads and you want to access one variable with more than one thread, if they're all trying to access and change the variable at exactly the same time, then how do you know which one's going to change it and what the value is going to be at the end? Another problem that we get is, for example, thread 1 will write the first half and then write the second half of the variable. Then once it's written the second half, thread 2 may come in and edit the part 1 and part 2, and then 3 might come in and edit part 1 and 2, and then you'll have the variable will be wrong because you'll have 3 different possible combinations on each value. So it could be so many different things, and all of them will be wrong. So for example, if we wanted to make a method that is synchronized across threads, we just say public synchronized, and then we call this synced thread. We also need a return void, nothingness. So if we had 2 threads now accessing this synced thread, let's say thread 1 accesses synced thread 2 and it gets here, then it stops. For example, if we told the thread to pause for a while, then if thread 2 tries to access this synced thread method, because thread 1 is currently inside this method and paused, thread 2 will get to here and it'll know that it's a synchronized thread, and another thread actually owns this method temporarily. Then it's just going to stop here, and then it's going to wait until the thread currently accessing the synchronized method to finish first, and then once that's finished, then the second thread will come in and then do the method. Okay, that ends this video. Please like, favorite, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.